Hello viewers and students, my name is Eugene and I'm currently a teacher for animation and graphic design courses here at a local university in Malaysia. Just a reminder, if you do want to try out this tutorial and need the Photoshop files for it, the link to the document is in the description below. Now this video is going to be about making 3D objects in After Effects. Okay, now as the tutorial goes along, I think you will actually realize that we can't do all 3D objects, only a select type of 3D objects, and they would have a certain look to it because of the limitations in After Effects. Because After Effects, like, it is not a 3D software, it's not to model 3D softwares, but we can kind of, I call it pseudo 3D our way through After Effects. Okay, so I've got here a box, like a cube, that you can make, and I've got another one which is like this child's cube, and this is the one I'm going to show you step by step. And we also have this arrow which is also in 3D, so I will be showing you this arrow and also how to make this cube, sorry, not this one, but this one. Okay, how I make this is a combination of how I'm going to make the arrow and also the kids block. Alright, so let's get started by creating a new project altogether. And I'm going to import in my file. Now, before I import in my file, probably best to have a look at it right now. Oops, let's not cancel this. Now, okay, so we have this file here that has all the different surfaces of the child's block. Okay, so this is like a wooden child's block and painted in such a way where it has a little bit of shadow painted in, not too much. So I've got this block and also the other one that has the hole through it, like it's one of those blocks where the kids actually put stuff, the shape of this object, the same shape of the object into the cube, into the box. And I also have an arrow. Okay, so I'm gonna, and of course, they are all put into individual folders, and with individual folders, when you're importing After Effects, do expect individual compositions. Okay, so now, let's get back to After Effects. File, import file, and let's import in 3D block kits. Okay, so composition, retain layer sizes, of course. Press OK. Alright, if you don't know why I am using composition, retain layer sizes, do watch my other video about importing in files in After Effects. It's quite a fundamental. You should watch that before doing this video, or you could finish watching this one, then watch that one. The link is in the description below. Now, okay, so when you import in the file that has multiple layers in After Effects, you would of course have a folder and a composition. So the composition would have all the files in it already, all the layers, but you'll notice that it's not all in Photoshop, because all in Photoshop files, because you have pre-comps here as well. Why are there pre-comps? It's because it corresponds to your Photoshop file here. You have the 1920, 1080 border that I've drawn, and then the file folders arrows, kids block 02, kids block 01, and that corresponds to this, see? Okay, so now to make things, keep things clean and organized, I'm going to make a 02 pre-comps folder in the project library. Bring the arrows, kids block 1, 2, and the kids block into here, and rename this 01 PSDS. Okay, all right, so let's assemble this, okay, which is kids block 1. All right, now how do I get two windows in the first place is right here. Okay, oh, and the timeline is really long, so perhaps not that long. You just need, actually it depends on how long your scene is, but I'm just going to reduce it down to 10 seconds. All right, now all of these pieces are individual pieces of the block. Okay, so I'm going to select all of them. Before I make them 3D, oh sorry, I was at how do you get two views, right? Okay, and you need two views when you're assembling something in 3D. It makes it a lot easier to see it from different angles. So it is right here. So usually when you import in something, it's in one view if it's going to be just flat. But if you are making it 3D, it's good to have it in two views. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of it and align them first, all in the center. I do not want them all like this because it helps to have them all centralized in one location. So how do I do that? Align horizontally, align vertically, and they're all snapped up like a nice stack of cards. Okay? Now they are not 3D yet because if you press on P, there's only two values. If you press on R, there's only one way to rotate this object, which is anti-clockwise and clockwise. Okay, if you press on S, there's only two values. Now let's just check how to create 3D. It is by clicking on this little box here underneath this 3D cube. Okay, so let's try and zoom in if we can. So yeah, you see that 3D cube, this little guy here. Okay, so that is to enable the 3D option for element that you bring in. Okay, so what you're gonna do is select one and look, you try checking out the position and the rotation. Okay, so look at what happens to all of this when you click on this. Suddenly there is three values and rotation is no longer there. It has expanded to orientation XYZ rotations because that's what happens in 3D. With the Z axis, all of this gets activated. All right, so you need to do the same for all the rest of the objects. Select them all and make them 3D. Now, it's important for you to name your files very well and clearly in Photoshop because this is where it matters. So by labeling this as the front, you know that this is the front. So you're not going to touch this one. Okay? The front is the letter B. Now, does it matter if you need to face you need to face B all the time when you're doing a project later? No, but this is going to help you to assemble this object easily. So it's almost like directions, like this is going to go to the front, this is going to go to the bottom, this is going to go to the top. Okay, now the first thing I usually like to do is either the bottom or the top of the object. I can't do the back, which is actually quite simple by moving it to the back, but I don't know how far to move until I know how big the box is, right? And that can only be done if I have the bottom or the top of the box. Okay, so now I'm going to change one of these views to a custom view, which makes it a lot easier to imagine it in 3D. So how do I know if a window or one of these composition windows is selected? Is I need to click on it and you'll notice these little yellow triangles at the edge of the tab. So that means that this window is being selected and you can change the view to custom view 1. So now you can see that's 3D, right? And when you activate an object in 3D to 3D in After Effects, it makes it suspend in 3D space, and it has these three arrows that you are able to move them around X, Y, Z axis. All right. So with this, the cat, I'm not going to move the cat first. Instead, I'm going to move the top or the bottom first. So I'm going to take the bottom and I'm going to rotate it upwards because the front is going to face us. That's the default. For the bottom, I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis at 90 degrees. Minus 90, enter. So now you can see it's like a cross, right? Like a T shape. So, and it is cutting right through the front piece, which is the, right now it looks like the cat, but it's actually the bee. Because why is the cat here? Is because they have all stacked up on top of each other. So you might never know what's going to be on top. Right now, the cat is on top because it's on the topmost layer here. So now what you need to do is you need to move this guy to the back, right? And this C. So this is the top view. This is the top view. And it's a lot easier to move it with the top view using your arrow keys on your keyboard. So I'm going to use the arrow key Make sure that the top is selected, not this view, but this view, you see, the yellow tab here. And I'm going to move it all the way. In fact, if you hold shift and you use the arrow key, it moves a lot faster. Jump, jump, jump. Okay, zoom in to make sure it snaps right at the edge. Okay, all right, cool. But it's still not in the correct position because like middle of the block, it's supposed to be on top. Wait, it's supposed to be on the bottom, right? It's supposed to be down here. So how do you go down? You turn to the left side and you will notice that yes, indeed, it's here. This is where the cat and all the rest of the pieces are. And this is where your C is. So you need to bring it down, shift, and all the way down. Okay, so let's just check if the corners are snapping nicely. Over here, zoom in. I'm zooming in with my roller on my mouse. Okay, now to do the top, pretty much the same. Press R, X rotation, rotate to, you can be minus or positive 90 degrees, but negative 90 is going to make your A face upright, so that's good. So now, what am I going to do? From this left view, I'm going to move it up first, so I'm going to hold down my shift key, up, 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 all the way, and then you see why you have two views and makes it a lot easier. You make it from this, you know that you are in the right direction, right? And then I'm going to move to the left, left, left. Oops, it is actually floating slightly above. Can you see this gap? It's not good. So I'm going to just go down a little bit more and then continue moving it to the back. So that's okay. And done. Oh, there seems to be a little bit of a gap here. Let's check. True enough, there is a gap. So let's go down a little bit and snap. A little down, a little bit more. Okay, I think it's good enough. You won't see it. So that's how you assemble the object. And now let's try and do, now, can we do the back now? Yes, definitely, because you know how far to push it. So select the back, which is the ball. And from the side view, use your arrow key on the keyboard and press all the way to the back. Ta-da! Let's check. All right. Oh. Okay, done. All right, so you've got the four sides here done. You've just got your left and right. Now, how you do the same thing actually, okay? What's on the left is the apple. So for the apple, let's go to the front view, okay? What you need to do, or rather the top view, okay? So now, the apple is still facing front. You need to turn it this way to face that way, right? So you press R. It is not Y rotation. You don't want to turn it upwards. You want to turn it sideways. So you go to Y rotation and turn it side. See? See over here in this window? So you need to turn it to 90 degrees and then click back on this window and just use your arrow key, move it all the way to the edge and then to the center. Okay, so that's why you see having two views helps a lot with your 3D object assembly. All right, and by doing this right now, I guess you can kind of figure out what kind of shapes you can make with this kind of method, this rather pseudo 3D method. You could make very easily things like triangles, pyramids, rectangles, skyscrapers, stuff like that. Can you make a cone? Well, no, it's going to be tough. In fact, it's not going to be tough. It's quite impossible. Can you make other objects or shapes? Yeah, it depends on how diligent you are in breaking those things apart. I used to work with a colleague who was able to assemble an entire 3D plane in After Effects, and how he did it was, this is the reason why there was an illustration of plane here. He would, like, this is the plane and there would be curves and areas like this, right? So what he did was he would cut every individual piece. and kind of figure out how to piece them all together. So this was one piece, this was one piece, and he would align and arrange them on an angle so that it, from the cross section of the plane, you would get something like this. Yeah, so he would arrange every single flat piece of object until it became a circle. So if you wanted to make, say, a cylinder, for instance, in After Effects, you would not be able to make a really smooth surface. You might need to break them up into small pieces and slowly rotate all of these pieces to form that cylinder. Well, I guess if you had like a strange looking building that had like multiple sides, then this would be easy to create, right? Something like this would be easy to create. But if you had like a smoother looking one, it'd be difficult. But yeah, and the thing is, the job that he was doing for this airplane was a pretty stylized one, so it didn't matter. So it really depends on the kind of style you're looking for as well. And okay, let's move to the final piece, which is the right hand side, the cat that has always been on the front. Now I'm going to turn him sideways 90 degrees, and then go to this view, use the arrow keys, push it right to the edge, and then push it right to the top, or rather to the back. And we're done. So let's just check on our cube. All right, let's go back to one view. It's a lot easier, that way a lot cleaner. We're going to take the orbit camera tool here, and let's check on the object. Yay, it's a 3D cube. Yeah, so yeah, this is how I usually make my 3D objects. You can make houses, strange skyscrapers and stuff like that. So you can make shapes like this. Now with an arrow, now this is another method that I usually use to make 3D objects. I'm going to delete this dark one off first. Now if I have an arrow and I want to give it some thickness, okay, again, I'm going to switch this to 3D, and it becomes 3D, you can see, automatically. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to switch to two views again. One is the top view, and this is the side view, the custom view 3. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to Control D, I've duplicated the arrow, and I'm going to move it a little bit to the top. Just a little bit, you can see it's very tiny. And I'm going to fill this one, go to Effect, Generate, Fill, and fill this with a dark blue color, press OK. And just check out what happens to this arrow as I increase the amount of layers and move them and offset them 2 spaces at a time. Okay, so I'm going to Control D one more time with this layer that it has the blue fill, and I'm going to use my arrow key and tap 1, 2, again, Control D, 1, 2, Control D, 1, 2, Control D, 1, 2. You can see my layers are increasing, and if you look on this window, it is increasing too. Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D, tap tap, Control D, tap tap, Control D, tap tap. And I'm going to go until I reach the thickness I desire, which is around now. And next, I'm going to delete the fill for the last layer because I want the front and the back of the arrow to have the same texture. So I'm deleting that. Now, I want to bring this into a new composition. How do I do that? So let's go to Composition, New Composition. Let's check 19201080. Press OK. All right. So we've got a new comp. Put this new scene. Okay. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring in the arrow. And you're wondering, shucks, wasn't this the composition that I made, the 3D arrow? Well, it is. It's here, right? But it's not 3D. Like, what happened? So if you press P, oh no, it's only 2 values. What happened? So you go back to the composition, you check. It is 3D. So how do you activate it? First, you need to activate this 3D. But it's still not 3D. It's still flat. Okay? Don't worry. The other one you need to click is on this one. For comp layer, collapse transformations, vector layer, continuously rasterize. So when you click on this, what happens? It becomes 3D. So your 3D object, that your arrow that you've created, is now a 3D object in this new composition or scene. Do the same thing for the block that you've made just now. You don't see anything now, but create 3D and snap on this. You've got your 3D box as well. Okay, let's move them away and let's turn the arrow a little bit. Okay, so you've got your two 3D objects that you've just made. Now, we can add a light to this scene, but in all honesty, I rarely have jobs or projects that I would like to add lights and kind of illuminate this whole thing to look like 3D. Probably if there's a logo, something simple will be okay. But if it's a full-fledged 3D thing, it's best to just use a 3D software. Okay, so now let's give this thing some ground first. So go to Layer, New, Solid. Let's give it an orange ground. You don't see the solid right now because it's not 3D. Okay, now you've activated the 3D. It is okay, it's viewable. Let's turn this round to 90 degrees so that it's horizontal. Now let's go to the side, go to the left, and lower this down so that it is right at the bottom, okay, of the box. Now, I'm going to increase the size of this solid like 1000 so that it fills up everything. And I'm going to add a light. Where do you get your light from? Go to Layer, New, Light. Now I'm going to create first an ambient light. What an ambient light does, it kind of generally lights an entire area generally. It gives the whole area an even coat of lighting. Okay, and the next thing I want to do is Layer, New, Light, and I'm going to put a spotlight, which is a very what you call specific lighted area. It's a very directional sort of light. Now I'm going to not tick on cast shadows first because I want to show you how it looks like without that being ticked. So let me move this light to a more desirable position. I usually move the light with the arrow keys that is nearby. So whenever you're moving a 3D object, not just for the light, but for any other 3D objects, even those with the plane, to make sure that you're moving it correctly, roll over one of these arrows until your cursor turns black and it has an alphabet next to it, either X, Y, or Z. X, Y, or Z. If it doesn't, then you are not moving it, nothing is going to happen. Okay? So I'm going to push this away, probably move it somewhere here. And to change the direction, I'm going to click on this point. Let's change to the top view actually and have it face this side and push this back and move it. Okay, so it's kind of facing the cat's direction right now. Let's move it here and then turn it this way. Okay, let's check from the front view. Okay, all right, and move this to the top. Okay, so it takes a while to master. Okay, the cone is pretty large, so what you can do is transform the cone's lighting options. Cone angle is a bit large, 90 degrees. Okay. All right, that's a lot better. Let's increase the intensity of this light. Now, you're wondering like, hey, wait a minute, there are no shadows on these objects. So all you need to do now is click on Cast Shadows, press on. There is still no shadow. So what do? You actually have to go to the individual object layer. So for arrows, you have to go to this. And if you look at the property of the object, material options, you'll notice that cast shadows is still on for this object. Off, sorry. So you need to switch that on. In fact, select all these other layers. drop this down, material options, material options, switch them on, and you're done. And do the same thing for the block as well. Control A, select them all. Where is material options? Cast shadows on. So let's go back to our scene, and voila! Now they are casting shadows. So you need to activate cast shadows on for the light and for the object as well. Now you can see that you can play around with your cast shadow. You can feather the cone. Right now it's at 50%, which is quite soft. You can go to 90, which makes it even softer. The shadow is pretty harsh, so you can adjust that at your shadow diffusion. Right now it's at 0 pixels. Let's try something like 150. You would get something pretty naturalistic. You can even adjust the shadow darkness, but as you can see, After Effects is not really suitable for making 3D objects. You can see it's really laggy. I'm just so afraid to even move the camera right now. If I were you, I would not activate all this shadow stuff until I've done animating. But sometimes it's quite tricky, right? Because you do want to see the shadows and how they look like. So you can even just play around with the shadow darkness. Probably adjust that to like 60% if you don't want it so dark. And voila. Okay, so now coming back to how I made the cube. So this is the scene. Let's just go back to the other scene that I made earlier, which is this one. Don't save. So this cube, now how did I make this cube? It's a combination of the method I used for the arrow and the cube. So I assembled the cube, you know how I assembled that. But to give it thickness, let's go in and check out this cube. It actually has depth, and it has many layers on top, right? So that's done with the arrow method by multiplying this one layer many times. Okay, so that's how I get a cube which has a little bit of depth to it. Okay, so as you can see here, it's made out of many different layers. So this one way you can kind of fake 3D in After Effects. You can make a lot of stuff. I had one project which it will be made into a tutorial soon, yeah, which is this gingerbread house. So this is, I've assembled this in 3D, and everything is painted in Photoshop. And as you turn around, it becomes like the scary gingerbread house. All right, but of course, the tree is kind of problematic because as it spins around, you can see the lies that we have been hiding from you. You can obviously see the tree is flat. Well, probably the solution to it is to rotate the tree as the object or the ground is rotating. Because what happens is the camera doesn't move at all in this scene. It's the ground that actually turns around. So as it turns, probably the tree has to continually face us, the camera. So that could be one method which I'm going to work on for this tutorial. All right. So that basically concludes this tutorial. I hope that now you can know how to actually pseudo 3D in After Effects. Alright, so for more videos on motion graphics and Adobe After Effects or illustration methods using Photoshop and Illustrator, please click on the subscribe button. Give this video a like if you found it useful. Do follow me also on Instagram at eugeniosaurus.fu. I also have the Facebook page by the same name. Both links are in the description below. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye! You might also want to check out some other videos, such as a beginner's video which teaches you the basics, or learn about setting up a 3D camera in After Effects.